All right. So number one lost. Second time in 3 days. North Carolina went down as the number one team in the country. This one was a 4 overtime. We can't call it a thriller, a 4 overtime snooze fest to Alabama. It was a very difficult game to watch. A lot of heat checks, a lot of bad decisions. Caleb Love got 35 shots off. I think Javon Quinterly got 27 shots off.
Respect.
I know you love that, T.O., but how worried do we need to be about North Carolina at this point of the season?
I think people don't realize. We said this before the season, Rob. Like, people didn't realize how good Brady Manick was. Like, floor spacing, dude. Take it easy. UConn's going to be fine. Floor spacing is at a premium. Pete Nance is still figuring out how to do that. Yeah, I think he's done a fine job. I really do. But to be honest with you guys, their problems this year are the same they were last year at this point. Clock management at the end of the game. Who's going to get that shot for you towards the end of the game? How are you going to get that shot towards the end of the game? Carolina got really hot the last 6 games of the season. Really, really hot. Ran into a buzzsaw against Kansas. What's changed this year? Not from last year in February. I don't know. The only thing that's changed is Hubert's trying to play a couple of more pieces. Problem is those guards are going to average 38 and a half minutes a game, and that's tough, especially when you're jacking up 38 shots a game or whatever Caleb Love's doing. Is Baycott being featured enough? I don't know. I would venture to say no. He needs to be a bigger part. To be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of movement before their ball screens. Like, I remember playing against Carolina teams. That Carolina break was a beast to go up against. Now they're just walking it up the court, especially at the end of the game. There's no ball movement. It's screened and hope Caleb Love hits a tough one. It was tough to watch. My brother's in town from Norway, and he doesn't watch a ton of college basketball. He goes, holy shit, can they both lose? Like, it was like it was just like, it was a brutal game to watch.
Yeah, man, I was like, obviously this is my first time on the show, guys. So I'm watching these games in detail, trying to take some notes, and I didn't even know what the hell to write down. Like, basically, it was just like, there wasn't a lot for me to really take from it, other than the fact, there wasn't much execution going on. You guys just said it. Basically, call for a screen, see what type of shot Caleb Love can get up. I think him and RJ Davis took 60 shots, 53 points on 60 shots. So, definitely not getting the bigs involved. And listen, I played against Pete Nance for 4 years when he was at Northwestern. I don't know if the 4 is his role. Like, he's a crazy mismatch at the 5 because he's quicker than the 5s. He can shoot it. He can stretch the floor. And they obviously had him play in the 5 a little bit at the end of that game. But it doesn't seem like he's fitting perfectly in their system as a 4-man. And I don't know if you guys see that too.
Yeah. So I think the issue is it's not on the
play Armando. That's the issue. Like, you have to play Mondo. He's a 2020 guy. That. Like, you're right, Gio. You're right. Like, he fits better against opposing 5s because he's big. He can put it on the floor a little bit. He pulls guys out. Like, that's his natural position. But he's going to have to change. Mondo's not changing because Mondo's not capable of changing.
Yeah,
right?
And I think you need him out there too, because one of the issues down the stretch of that game was there was no space. Like, you could throw the ball into Mondo if you wanted to. There was no space down there because you had 2 guards up top, right? Armando setting a high ball screen. You had Leaky Black in one corner. You had Puff Johnson in the other corner. And Alabama just did not even pay any attention to them.
Dude, Puff Johnson's just a body out there.
They just stood on the block. Their defenders they just stood on the block. And if you want to throw the ball into the post to Armando there, like, he's going to be immediately double teamed. And he's got a 7-footer, Charles Bediako, who's a monster on him. Bediako finished like 14, 16, 3 blocks, 2 steals.
That was my biggest takeaway from the game, was that dude has developed into a stud.
Mm-hmm.
Rim protection, long. He's growing into his body. Like, he's defending his butt off. That dude's really good. And he's the inside presence that Alabama hadn't had in a few years. Sorry.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so I thought that the issue was not having Pete Nance on the floor at the 4 spot because you couldn't do anything. That's why I wish I could get a screenshot of it, but there were a couple where they would go with like that overhead camera and it came right from the back. Like, you got a shot directly from the back, and RJ Davis came off a ball screen and he's looking right at Charles Bediako in drop coverage, the help guy from the corner standing right there on the block in front of him. He can't hit Armando for a roll or a lob because the weak side guy is in the block. There were 5 defenders like in the paint in front of him, and like, he has nowhere to go. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do coming off of that screen. So I think that's the biggest issue with North Carolina right now.
Biggest issue is Caleb Love played an hour.
Well, no, honestly,
He
you
played
said
58
it right.
minutes. Their biggest issue is him and my math isn't great. We've established as much, but they were 21 of 60 of 60. RJ and Caleb Love. Somebody else got to help, man.
Yes, and so here's and North Carolina, when they made their run, run because it was just kind of like, we're going to let these two dudes rock out, and they went nuts for like a month straight at the end of the year. They did it in Cameron Indoor Stadium. They did it in the ACC tournament. They did it in the NCAA tournament. We saw them. They were down, like 15 in the first half of that Final Four game. And then Caleb Love had 27 in the second half. Like, that is what North Carolina is. It's just kind of, we're going to let these two guys go get whatever they can get. When they're making shots, we're going to be really good. They're guys that can make tough shots. And if they miss it, hopefully Armando can get an offensive rebound. Every once in a while, we're going to run Brady Manick off a screen. He's going to make a three. And they're doing the exact same shit right now.
But they need to figure out like what to do at the end of the clock. Like, you got to do something creative. Like do something, get some movement. Like anything.
The best one, it was the end of the first overtime. There were 31 seconds left on the clock, 30 seconds left on the shot clock. And they just had Caleb Love dribble with his left hand for 25 seconds. And he went one-on-one and got I think he bricked a step back three or so. It's just like, what are we doing?
I love it.
I want to ask you this question, okay? That was your strength, right? Like, going one-on-one. So when coach was like, we're going to run a whole bunch of stuff, were you like, nah, just give me the ball, let me go?
It was coach. Listen, I was doing whatever coach said. So he would say literally what you guys just said about Caleb Love. It was that. I was going to dribble it out, and then we were going to do a little. We made it a little bit more creative. We had a fake horn set where both bigs would come up, and then basically they would act like they were going to set a screen, and then they would just go, and it was just ISO. So then that was really it. So
that was just to get the guy who was guarding you get his head turning a little bit.
Exactly. Just get the head turning just a little bit.
There's none of that for Carolina.
Yeah, no. They're
none of it.
They're even freestyling even more than we did, which is crazy.
All right, I do want to make
too. Like last year, I know those guys were rocking out the last 6 or 7 games for Carolina. Let's keep in mind too, like RJ was bringing that thing with pace in the NCAA tournament. Like he was bringing it with pace down the side. They'd set a step up ball screen for him to get down the side, and then they'd start this little chain of reaction where he would get in the middle, pitch out, guy would close out, one dribble, kick ahead. Like there would be movement to get into those actions. We're back to Carolina Pitt of last season in February right now. Like these guys are not moving, and the rest of those guys are not moving. And is Puff Johnson your answer? I don't think Puff Johnson is your answer.
And they're not guarding either. Like
they've never guarded really, but like
not guarding either.
Yeah, that's it. They're just, it's a little too stagnant for my liking. Like I played against a Carolina team with Ty Lawson and Wayne Ellington and Danny. Like that ball popped. Like Carolina basketball, the ball moves, you're unselfish, you play extremely fast. That's what made them hard to guard. Not Caleb Love going one-on-one, dribbling the ball for 20 seconds and pulling Geo. You know what I'm
How
saying?
many of those dudes do you think remember you, T.O.? Could pick you out of a lineup? If you walked in and you saw Ty Lawson, would he remember you?
No shot in hell. You know why I know that? Because at the Final Four, Tyler Hansborough, who I played against several times, Geo, had no idea who I was. Like, dude, I gave him 20 and a half. No recollection whatsoever. My feelings weren't hurt at all.
Messed up, man.
At a single tear.
A reminder. But where you guys have UNC compared to the rest of the ACC right now?
I'll tell you what. I'll bring that up right now. I love that question, and I'm going to do. Let me pull up the ACC.
So I think Virginia is clearly the best team in the ACC, right?
Right now, yes. Right now, correct. Yeah, I'm with you.
You on that bandwagon, Gio?
Yeah, I'm there.
And then I think Duke and Carolina are the next two. And like, you can kind of tier them however you want to tier them. I think that right now, Carolina's probably a little bit better. I think that the ceiling for Duke long-term is probably a little bit higher. I think no matter what happens when North Carolina plays their best is always going to be a little bit better than Duke's best. That's kind of where I stand with those two.
All right. You guys ready? I think you put Virginia Tech ahead of North Carolina right now.
Oh boy.
I don't know.
Tell us why. Talk to us.
Dudes. Like people don't realize Virginia Tech's dudes are dudes until you watch them. You're just like, who the hell is this kid? Like Sean Padula is really good, and Mike Young's going to put those dudes in the right spot. If they played today, Virginia Tech would win. If they played today, I don't know what the schedule looks like moving forward, but I'm telling you, man, Virginia Tech's a tough cover. They've got a lot of shooting, and they know what they are.
That's exactly what it is. They know exactly what they are. And Mike Young can coach his ass off.
Dude, he's getting guys shots like crazy. Like look at the guys he's had throughout his not only Virginia Tech, but like Hunter Couture goes nuts after not scoring in the semifinals and then going to the ACC championship game and dropping a 30 piece. Like, and they know what they are and they're okay with what they are. Like that's the biggest thing. They lost one to Charleston, which was basically an away game. Like right now, like I just feel like because they know what they are, I think if they play today, I would pick Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and it wasn't basically an away game. It was an away game. It was in Charleston's gym in front of a whole bunch of Charleston fans at the Charleston Classic. Like that wasn't basically an away. That was an away game. Gio, are you going to let him come in here and say that Virginia Tech is better than North Carolina? Because I don't know if I can let
today.
I haven't seen enough of VT to make a real assessment. I'm looking at the ACC right now though, and the bottom is just super weak, man. I didn't even realize.
It is bad.
We were talking about Big East.
I give up. I've tried.
ACC's not looking too hot right now either.